6 of the chess calculation and visualization series. It's on the same slide deck as part 5, just because we weren't sure where we'd leave off last week. So we'll just jump right in. So this week we're going to focus on tips and tricks. So I laid out a couple, but time depending, maybe more, maybe less. The first thing, we're going to look at some move order stuff, playing around with that. We're going to look at this idea of skipping a move to find your opponent's idea, bailing out, and desperados. So let's see this. Okay. So the first kind of thing to keep in mind when you're playing around is move orders. Oftentimes, you can reach the same position through multiple different variations, through multiple different ways of playing the same sets of moves. But possibly only one of them is going to end up working out for you. What you want to keep in mind when you're doing this is you want to find the ways to force your opponent to commit themselves as early as possible. You want to give them as few options, as few variations as you can, particularly if you're either attacking, where your opponent will have a lot of defensive options that they may not otherwise have had if you pick an incorrect move order. For instance, if you play a quiet move earlier in the sequence, they may have access to options they wouldn't have otherwise had. Same with defending. You don't want to, give the attacker additional options that they otherwise would not have had. Does anyone have questions about this? Otherwise, we'll jump into an exercise. Okay. So in this position, how do people feel about this position? What's kind of first impressions? When to play, by the way.
Is it a checkmate exercise?
It's a tactic.
It's like a checkmate exercise.
So I'm not going to tell you that it's necessarily a checkmate, but I will say that you're playing white, and I'm going to let you tell me, how do you think white is doing?
So white is doing great because they can save all pieces are looking at the opponent's king side.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So we should start maybe thinking,
Close to checkmate.
yeah, exactly.
And there is a checkmating square G7 if we are gonna get rid of the knight somehow.
Right. So why don't we spend 5 minutes looking at this position, and then we can come back and you can let me know your thoughts. How you would convert this for white. still go. Well, what time is it? Yeah, we can go for it.
Yeah, if you want to.
Well, Ray, who wants to go?
Hmm?
Who wants to give their analysis? Someone have an answer?
Queen takes pawn on g7, check. King takes queen. Knight takes knight on d7, check.
Yep.
And there's no defense from check.
Yep.
Seems like checkmate.
Does that make sense to everyone?
So it's queen takes, knight takes, but then the king took.
No, knight not takes. Queen takes on g7, check. King supposed to take it.
Okay.
And then there is the scout attack. Knight takes knight.
Yeah. But then what do you do when the king goes to g8?
G8 because it's check. It cannot go to g8. Because momentum. G8. So in this case, knight goes to
6.
Mm-hmm.
f6. Yes, check again.
Yeah, rook.
So, wait, okay. So we see the position after Queen G7, King G7, Knight D7, right? That's all clear. And then the issue is
King goes back.
King goes to G8.
Yes.
Sure.
So knight goes to f6. 4.
Yeah. And then you're saying you would probably say King F7. You would probably say King F7 after Knight goes to F6.
Yes. Yes, and then I don't know. Maybe the point is just to take the rook, but
Well, you have a better
checkmate.
you have a better move than taking the rook. Does everyone see the? Does everyone?
Oh, we get another discovered attack,
Yep.
and then we take the king. That's
Yeah, you take the queen.
Yeah. Okay. Get it. But so if they go to h7, no, to h8.
Where?
Yeah. So queen takes, king takes g7, then knight takes d7.
Yep.
King, no.
King g8.
Yes, king g8, knight f6, but then if king h8,
Yep.
then it would be a rook.
Let's go on h8 because it,
Yeah,
knight,
because we
knight,
get
knight is
the
there.
rook with check and it's, we can hit the queen again.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So how do you? I assume you started off by trying to make the knight move work,
Right.
and then you.
I saw the queen is there will be the scout attack on the queen. So king knight is also the discovery attack on the other side. So if I move the knight, queen takes queen and the attack will forward.
Yeah. Good.
So just with the move, maybe can I sacrifice queen first instead of
This technique is one that I really like. It's what I call skipping a move. It's really good. It's very helpful if you're trying to defend. The idea is, and by the way, you can do this actually on Lichess. You just hit like the X key when you're analyzing, and it will look at the position from your opponent's perspective. I'll show you this in a moment. But basically, it's saying, if I skip my move, what is my opponent's threat? If I give them just an extra turn right now, what would they do? If you want to, you can give yourself 2 moves to kind of juice your own threat a little bit. I don't recommend you do this. It's very easy to get into kind of this lazy thinking of just I can keep skipping moves and everything will work out. Oftentimes, they're your opponent's resources. You might underestimate your opponent's resources, but the point of this is to kind of overestimate to some extent.
Yeah, kind of to make long-term plans.
Yeah. This is to overestimate your opponent's resources. That's the benefit small red arrows. They're less distinct on the screen. I'm not sure how visible they are. Oh, it's fairly visible. So, anyways, you can do that to toggle seeing your opponent's screen. It's quite useful.
Or is that an X key?
The X key, yeah.
And also the crosshair button, right?
Also crossword. Anyways. So does this, people get where I'm going with this? How this technique works? So, let's spend 5 minutes on this position. And see what we get.
White to move?
White to move. Also, it doesn't matter what you saw because you're going to need to before e2, okay, and then let's say I go, let's say I go rook e4, right? So I'm going to stop you here.
But then our rook will be paralyzed, right?
Yeah,
And that's the
right, right. So
that's
after
the catch. Before.
bishop f5, g5, h4, right, if we can see this position, then white can't win, even though he's up the clock. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I did not.
After rook b4, e2,
Yes.
rook e4,
Yes.
bishop takes f5, g takes f5,
And king h6 maybe.
I would just go h4, right? So I want h4 because with after h4, right? If you see the pawn on h4, there's no way white's king can ever escape.
One moment, do we have undefended bishop right there? So rook takes bishop, pawn goes ahead, for example, pawn
Mhm.
goes to b1.
Rook goes to d1. Okay. Same idea. Bishop takes f5, g takes f5, h4.
And then the black king is going to take the pawn.
h4, h3.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, in a few moves.
Let's say king h6. Right, because you could. So, would it be easier to set this position up? People maybe getting a little lost. So there are two moves here. What do we want to? Which move do we want to start with?
Maybe a rook e4.
Rook e4. Takes. We all agree you have to take.
Yes.
Okay.
It seems reasonable.
h4. Go ahead.
h3.
King h6.
King h6 actually is not good because king
Oh,
h6.
you just take your pawn, yeah, sure.
Let's check.
But I posit that this is now that it's in front of you, just go ahead and this would be a draw.
Yes, because the black king can't do much, and the white king is just completely trapped.
Right. So this rook has
Yeah, it has three squares, but the sense one that is trapped. Well, that's what I think.
the rook has to stay on the e file, right? Right. So Some people saw that before, but
Yeah, I was worried about bishop c5 in that position. But that was when the bishops were switched because your rook can't go to
yeah,
d4.
that, yeah, it's, yeah.
Your rook can't go to d4. No, sorry, d3. Or e4 or d3.
Yeah, I would prefer e4 here. I think d3 is quite dangerous after. Oh, maybe not.
But when the bishops were switched, then they.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Sorry about that. Your notes. So this idea is called bailing out, and basically the point here is as you get into very deep calculations, right? Oftentimes, like let's say you're attacking. This is really the best example is if you're attacking. And you sacrifice it. You're trying to figure out if you should sacrifice a piece or not, right? It happens often that you won't be able to see all the way to the end, right, of the variation. And this will vary with strength. This will vary with position, all that sort of stuff. One thing that you can do that makes this much easier is you can try to find a perpetual instead. That oftentimes is much more common. It's much easier to find that a lot of the time. Or some sort of queen trade where you get the piece back, liquidating to an equal endgame. And so what you want to be doing is trying to find these escape hatches where you can continue keeping the position difficult, or you can escape into an equal position and play on, because as the position gets closer, right, as the position where your escape hatches gets closer, you'll be able to calculate deeper into the position overall, right? You'll be able to understand more. Your opponent's resources will become more clear as the position is on the board, and you'll be able to make a better evaluation. But having the ability to escape, right, knowing that you'll be able to do that, is very useful when you're trying to figure that out, to figure out to go forward. And what I would say is, if in your back pocket you can have a draw, then you should feel comfortable sacrificing a piece, right? You should feel comfortable going in for the attack or going in for the combination, unless you're already winning, right? If you're already winning, don't take a draw. But if you want to play for a complicated position, it makes the position very difficult. If you see a draw somewhere in there, you should feel comfortable going for that sacrifice. This one is one that it's not so easy to find an example for, because I could either show you a really difficult position, but that computer would just give it an objective evaluation, and then it wouldn't be useful, or I could show you a position where it's just clearly a draw. Also would not be super useful. So let's
So
get
I
that.
think we need to first find a safe exit and then start diving into the calculations.
So knight h7, or seeing knight g5, and then okay, I get the king in there, I get the rook in there, I get the king in there, or sorry, I get the king, I get the queen in there, you get all this sort of stuff going. That's all well and good. You'll be calculating that, and then what will happen is you'll see, oh, and there isn't one in this position, but you'll see, oh, I have a perpetual, right? You don't want to start by looking for the perpetual. You want to start by looking for the attack. But in the process of looking through the attack, you'll find perpetuals later. Okay. So the last thing to go over, I think, would be desperados. So this is where oftentimes one player will capture a piece, and then instead of recapturing, right, if you have the option to recapture, you have the option to capture one of your opponent's pieces. With desperado, oftentimes, I'll capture one of your pieces, you'll capture a different one of my pieces, you won't recapture, and then it will kind of escalate from there. These kind of cascading chains of capture. If you've seen it in one of your games, you would kind of get a feel for it, and we'll go over a tactic with that. When doing this, when looking at these positions, it can be hard to adjudicate what exactly is going on. But I would say whoever gets the last capture, right? Whoever gets the first capture, whoever gets the last capture, these are important things to think about. And then also, who has the most forcing capture, right? By most forcing, I mean, something like a check is more forcing than any capture, right? A capture that produces a check. And then capturing the queen is more forcing than capturing a rook, etc., etc. Although oftentimes in kind of these cascading chains, you'll see positions where white, you'll capture, the last move will be you're capturing the knight with the queen, right? You're giving up a queen for the knight, but it just all, because your opponent has to respond in such a way, you'll end up, capturing their queen. So, you'll even see people giving up their queen for just a pawn. Don't think about it in terms of the value of the piece that you're giving up. Always think about the value of the pieces that remain on the board at the end of the sequence. This is generally true, by the way. What's more important than what you're trading is always what remains on the board, what remains in the position. Yeah. So we'll do this example. You're playing white. Black is kind of breathing down your neck a little bit. Let's put it nicely. I'm not going to tell you if white is winning or not, by the way, just because no one in your game will tell you if white is winning.
Is this example desperado?
Yeah. I was making a joke and say, oh, well, it's just the one that happens right afterwards. But no. some of these, by the way, there may be no tactic. It might just be an even position. Or it might be there's one move that loses. But yeah. Because again, in your games, you're not going to know wins, loses, whatever. You have to make the assessment. Are people generally starting with position one, the one in the top right?
I'm not sure if I got the solution for position one, right?
Just to make sure, position 1, white to move, black, 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 and white.
Yes. I may have told you last week that position 2 was white to move. That would have been incorrect. But either way, I mean, it was white to move.
Position 2, black or white?
So, position 2, black. Sorry, yeah, black. Black. Do we have a position we want to look at? Or just. They're complaining you guys aren't solving fast enough.
That should be marching too.
I said they're complaining that they're not solving fast enough. I'll start this off. Let me get behind you.